Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar here from Add-on Products. We are happy to see all of you, and we hope that we can give you a little information about what's going on in our products and what's going to happen. I have shared my screen, so let me just go on to the next slide. The ones you are going to meet here during this webinar will be Christina, who's our onboarding consultant. We'll talk about some of the new stuff in Resource Central. Søren Skau, that is me, product specialist on Resource Central. And then we have Simon Fisker, who is the product owner for Resource Central, and Jens Rubeck, who's the product owner for the new Workspace app and the digital sign client. I say new, it's been there for a while after. The webinar, we said it in the emails, but just to recap it, the webinar will be recorded so that everything you say will be used against you. But anyway, we will of course we'll send the recording to you afterwards. We will also send it to the ones who were actually just invited, so you know that to the next time, and that should you not be able to make it in one of our webinars, you can still receive the recording anyway. When you have questions during the sessions, we would like you to use the chat, and we will then pick up the questions and put them in where it fits in the in our presentation. Should you come up with a question later on for a previous thing we walked through, a previous issue, don't worry, just put in the question and we will take them as they come. So what are we going to talk about today? We'll talk about Resource Central, what's new, how do I implement it. So we have some new licenses and resource types. We have a new history functionality. We have some location utilization calculation feature. We have deadlines per item and some new floor plan features. And of course, we would also like to tell you something about what's in the pipeline, what are we working on for the next release and the next release and so on. Then we will talk to you about the Workspace app and the digital sign client. Jens will talk to you about the products, also what's new in them, especially because we have now integrated Resource Central together with the digital sign client so that it can be synchronized and integrated. Jens will talk about resource types and, of course, again, what's in the pipeline, what's going to come, what are we going to see in the future. So from there, I will give the word to Simon, who will do the first part of the presentation. So you just take it away, Simon.
Hello, everybody, and nice to see so many of you. Very glad that you are here to hear about our new feature releases that most of them pushed during just before the summer period coming up. I'm going to be talking about features a bit from our service release 1, and later on when Jens is going to present his part, we're also going to touch a bit upon Resource Central Hotfix 1, which is going to support the digital sign system, but he'll get into that, and I will start with something else. So Service Release 1 provided a brand new feature. We have a new license and resource type. The new type here is called Pool Resources. And what is that? Well, it's basically giving the user the ability to book one unspecified resource from a number of resources. Basically, from Resource Finder, you will just be able to see one resource, and from that you can then pick it and have a number, one of a number of resources. That would be, for example, if you have an office with a lot of desks, then you then have the right to book or to use one of these desks. So not a specific desk, just a desk in this pool. So basically, it's a free seating principle that we're going after here. This resource is based on the idea to have one resource calendar, so we don't have a lot of maintenance on it, and we will then be able to book this pool resource up to its limit. So let's say you have 100 in this pool, then you'll be able to have 100 users booking the same resource and reserve the right to be seated in a certain area. This could also be, for example, parking spaces that you want to book in such a way, because you don't want a specific parking space, you just want a parking space when you get into the office at a certain location. So that is the main purpose of these pool resources, and we wanted to put this into to our system in order to ease the booking process in cases of when you have people with this kind of hybrid work environment where you are some days working from home and other days you're working from the office. Then you in Resource Central will need to also have office desks. Prior to this, we mostly had like hot desking and rooms and so on. But in this way, you're actually able to, from a system admin perspective, manage thousands of rooms with a slighter amount of resources. You could take 1,000 resources and group them into hundreds, just having 10 resources to manage then, because you have one calendar, and we then in Resource Central manage all the calculation rules based on that. So from the user perspective, we are helping ease the booking process when going in and out of office, while on the other hand, from the other perspective, we have the system admins who don't want to administrate 10,000s of resources, for example, but here instead the benefit is that you can chunk it into these pools instead, having a lot easier management part on it. Also, some of the benefits is that, as you see, people, due to, for example, the pandemic, switching more and more between home and the office, and which will be more the standard going forward. We believe that more and more will have a more flexible working environment going back and forth. Then we also believe that some companies will try to save on cost, scaling down the amount of office desks to support this free seating / flexible seating principle. And with the pool resources, this is going to be supported going forward. So how do you do it then? What does it require? Well, it's a new license, so you would of course need to upload a new license. Price lists and so on can be gotten from area managers and will not be covered on this meeting. But when you get through this part, you have uploaded the license. You'll be able to see that you now have a new license type called pooled resources. In my case, I have 500 of them. When configuring them from the backend, there's some smaller changes here. You'll see that we have included a license type dropdown, now having the standard resources, the light resources, and pool resources for you to choose between. When you then start configuring a pool resource, all you need to do is put on the license type, and then the capacity will dictate how many is in this pool. So set the capacity of 100, and you have 100 desks within this pool that can be booked by your users. If you choose to have a lot of resources on different locations, it's nice to be able to keep track on how many is configured. So we added a counter telling you how many of your pool resource licenses you have left when configuring. In this case, I have configured 2 with the license type pool resources, each with a capacity of 10. Good. When we did this new resource type or license type called pool resources, we actually wanted or found the need to have another concept called resource type that can be put on a resource. This is kind of like a high-level category division you can make, defining whether your different resources in your organization, is it a desk, is it a room, is it equipment or miscellaneous? Because when you then open Resource Finder, we will list, as you can see down here in some tabs, the different resource types. We'll filter the resource list accordingly. So you can say, okay, today I want to go for rooms, or you click on the rooms tab or the desk tab if you want the desks. This in order to make it easier for the users to distinguish between the what they're filtered in the list. Because if you, for example, just filter on a location, you might end up with rooms, desk, and equipment all modeled in one. So we found it best to have tabs based on these resource type to show the different resources. The tabs or the resource types can be changed name-wise. So if you don't have equipment, but you have parking lots, you can just rename it and map your parking lots into this resource type instead. Language is also managed, so you can do it in multiple languages. Good. What I showed you on the previous slide were screenshots of the Outlook add-in. Some of you might be more familiar with the COM add-in when using the Resource Finder. This is basically the same we have. We have the different tabs and the same ability to see the resources and filter on them. So for the users, there shouldn't be much change in that. Here you just see I've chosen to say, okay, I have a category called pooled resources that, and I'm interested in finding a pooled resource. And I can see that I have this on 2 locations. So basically, that's the story of one of the biggest and most complex new features in Service Release 1, which we hope will be very beneficial going forward with people going in and out of office, or if you have a lot of equipment where you think that, okay, I have 10 PCs that can be borrowed or laptops, I don't really need to manage them in one calendar. I'll just model them into one and put them into the system. Then that was, I can say, a bit about the configuration. Then we of course also have something in regards to how do you book it. There are a few rules that I'd like to highlight a bit, because how do you book them? Well, you as an organizer can book the pooled resources, and you can do it as a all-day event. You can do it from 8 to 10, or you can do it from 11 to 3 o'clock. It's up to the user how to define it. But in order for, as it is, for example, the desk, you going into the office, you don't need 5 desks. So if you have overlapping time intervals. The system makes sure that in the end you only have one desk reserved for you, going from the start time of your earliest booking to the latest one. Also, if you're going into office and you are a team lead and you want your 5 colleagues to be there, you can reserve pool resources for your attendees by adding, or your colleagues by adding them as attendees to the meeting in the to line. So if I go into the office and I have my 5 colleagues, one of them is Søren, but Søren already have a booking for that day for the same pooled resource, then the system will not count him twice. We'll say, okay, Søren only needs 1 seat, so we, when we do the calculation, only count him once. He can still believe he's got an extra one, but he, in theory, don't have it. We only reserve 1 for him. And all of these rules are handled by the system in the backend. If you exceed the available amount, let's say you have the work group here called New York, a lovely desk section with a capacity of 10. If you say, okay, I want to go in there and I want to book for 11, then it will tell you, in this case, you can see I up my number to 13, so we are having 13 people attending. I declick the only list available resources because I am not allowed to actually book it. And when not allowed, we show that you cannot book it, and we give the explanation to why. The same way we would do if you violate some of the exchange booking policies that can be set up on a resource. But this is then only handled by Resource Central, and nothing you have to do in Exchange Central to get the policies to work. So that was a bit about the booking process. Any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Good. Then I will skip ahead to the next slide. So, history. We wanted to provide history on reservations. What has been going on a reservation that you see in Resource Central? What has happened to it through its lifetime? So when you go into a single reservation, you can see this new button called History. That button will give you the total history of that reservation. If you have multiple resources reserved for the same meeting, it will actually show you the whole meeting. So the history is more or less a representation of the Outlook meeting, not only the Resource Central reservation. So if I had more resources, you could see everything in here. So, but what do you see? The history will give you firstly what happened in Exchange. When did this meeting, when was it created? Who created it? You can see a woman here called Christina created it in the beginning of August. You can see the subject. You can see from when the meeting starts and when it ends. And also which date's gonna be taking part. She apparently was in good time and scheduled this meeting 4 days before she actually needed the meeting. She wanted to book, in this case, also the pooled resource called Workspace New York, and we can see that she booked it with the busy state that you know from Outlook as busy. It could also be a tentative scenario where you would have then the tentative state until the delegate approves it, and then we can, in the history, also see the change that the delegate has now approved the meeting, and it has gone from tentative to busy. So this is the Exchange part, but what happens in Resource Central as of the change in Exchange? Well, during the create scenario, we send out, or the system send out, a new reservation. email to Christina in this case. And then after 3 days of booking this, Christina decided that she didn't actually need this booking. So she went in and deleted it. And you see the busy state goes to deleted. So why do we need this history? Well, one benefit of it could be that someday Christina calls the support staff of an organization, of her organization, and say, I didn't delete this. Now I don't have the meeting. The system failed. And then you can go in, for those who are system administrators, you can go in and say, Christina, let's look at what happened here. We can see that on the 9th of August, you at 9 o'clock actually did delete this resource in Exchange. Does that ring a bell, or did Exchange mess up your invite? And then maybe Christina said, yeah, I remember now. Sorry, it was my mistake. Or if it is a bug, it also gives you the ability to troubleshoot bit what actually happened in this scenario, what went wrong, what went good. Let's say, for example, that under notifications, you can see there are no notifications, and here we should expect a new reservation. Then you say, okay, for some reason, Resource Central had a failure at that time. We need to report it, and we have some clear evidence of it, which will help also our developers troubleshoot and help you fix the bug that we would be facing. So giving history, giving the ability to troubleshoot and find out what actually went on here. In the right-hand side, you can also see a sync status, which will tell you whether our action of actually getting all the information from Exchange and from Resource Central, if that went okay. So if there's a red dot here, it might be that you need to resync it because maybe, I don't know, a service had stopped while trying to synchronize it. All the data is gotten on demand and built every time. Good. Let me just make a last comment on this. The change from you see here, it might be for those of you who use Booking Manager. If a Booking Manager goes in and declines Christina's meeting here, or moves her out of it, we can see that the change comes from the Booking Manager. Or it might be a full sync that is pushing them into the system after you full synced some resources. Then this will also say full sync in the changed from. So basically the change from is when the system is doing something and not the user in Exchange. So that was history.
There's a question for you, Simon, before you finish it.
Yes.
Jared is giving us a question from Florida. Unrelated question somewhat, he says. Are there currently plans to allow access to be delegated to users to the mail log rather than only the system account with access? I think Jared is referring to the big mail log that we have on the system, where you see all mails, which can currently only be available if you are logged in as system or has the sysadmin rights.
So that you can set up what access control for the mail log?
I think that would be what he's asking, yes. It is what he's asking.
Okay, currently no plan, but one point of such meeting is also to get your questions and suggestions for feature improvement. So I'll take this back to my backlog in regards to seeing if this is something we can make accessible at some point in the future.
Okay, thank you. I think that was the questions for now, so we can move on.
Just considering, but Jared, you might make an account where you only allow those users to have access to the mail log. So it's not the system account who can see it. You might be able to distinguish between that, so that you say, okay, on the system, I create a user, and for that, it's only a certain role that can see only this little tile called mailwork. But I don't know if it needs to be under reservations as well. Consider it, write us an email, and we can discuss it more in depth with you to see if we can't actually already do something in regards to your needs.
Yep. He'll try it out, so he says.
Super. Cool. That was it for me for now, I would say. I'll give the word to Christina, who's going to tell you a bit about other new features of Service Release 1.
Yes, thank you. Hi to you all. There is a new feature in the Outlook add-in, which has been in the COM add-in for a while. And that is you can actually see whether there's a floor plan connected on the location. It is now available on the desktop, the Outlook on the web and Mac. And the way you see it is that there will be a little icon marked with a red showing that there is a floor plan. And then you can see whether it's possible or not. And it's in the resource finder, of course, in the Outlook add-in when you want to make a reservation. And if you want to switch the slides on. So when you click on the little icon, you'll get the view of the floor plan where you can see all the available rooms and you can pick one. If you pick one, it'll turn yellow, just the same functionality as you have in the COM add-in, where you have all the floor plan configurations set up and you can pick and choose the resource you will need for your meeting. And next slide, yes. And when you just mouse over in the floor plan on a meeting room or resource, it's possible to now to see all the information on that resource. You can see the categories, if there is an image connected on the resource, if it's configured, then you are able to see it. You can see the capacity and you can see the categories if you have any on the resource. So it could be a big help if you want to search for a certain room and you're not quite sure which one is it. Then you can see it in here actually, just by mouse over. And the next, yeah. And if there is a reason why you can't book this resource, then you can actually see it in just by mouse over in the details you will be seeing. Then there will be a little icon, either with a little hand if there's a delegate on the room, and there'll be an explanation when you mouse over the little hand saying, why can't I book this? Because there's a delegate. Or you can't book it, but there is a delegate. Or if you're not allowed to book it due to booking policies, then there'll be a little icon showing that there's a booking policy and you can't book this resource. So there's a lot of information just by having the mouse over functionality on the resource. And next. Yeah, and the floor plan is configured by making a right mouse button click in the navigation menu on left side where you go to floor plan and you get the floor plan properties. There is a field called floor plan image. You will put in your image and it is of course all before that placed in the image folder. There you can pick it and you can upload the image and then you'll choose the select resource and you will add the resource and then you'll mark them where they're at. And in order to get this little field visible in the properties on the location, there is a little parameter you'll have to set. It's called a resource finder.floorplan. It has to have a value of 1. Otherwise, you won't get the possibility to add a floor plan image. Yes, I think that's.
Yep. Before we go to the next slide, Christina, I have a question from David. saying we've been holding off going to the Outlook add-in from the COM add-in due to lack of feature parity. At this point, what is left that is in the COM add-in and not the Outlook add-in?
I think one of them. Oh.
Go ahead,
do you wanna? Okay. I think one of the main issues or main differences is that if you use the Outlook add-in, you'll have to do a two-step ordering. If you're having standard resources where you want to book catering or extra services, you'll have to first make a reservation on the resource. Then you'll receive an email with a link, and then you can make your order.
And no, actually, bit differently. In the Outlook add-in, the order form is available, but you need to enter it after you create the meeting, because we need the acceptance of the Exchange resource to go through. And when you open out the existing meetings with the from the Outlook add-in, there you'll have the order form button available. So two-step ordering, yes, but the button is also there. So if you can live with that, that's also okay. You can get the order form in Outlook. You don't have to go to the mail. You just need to have the meeting created firstly. What else is missing currently? I would say if you're using virtual resources, that is not supported yet. But I think that is one of the main things that we're missing, and also the ability to remove rich text into the body of the Outlook appointment hasn't been implemented yet. But if it's something that is important, both of the features we will be looking at some point in the future. Especially virtual resources, we just need to find a way to do it, because the way that the difference between the two add-ins in how Microsoft pushes the functionality that we can use is a bit different. So we need to find a way around the quirks that we have in the Outlook add-in API from Microsoft. But yeah, two-step orderings not needed. You just need to create the meeting, have the resource accepted, and then you can open it up and see a button on each resource.
David is extending his question, saying, is the long-term roadmap to get away from the COM add-in?
As long as we have, and we do have a lot of customers, and as long as we have customers using it and are happy about it, and then no, we'll keep supporting both of them, because it can also be that some just like the COM add-in better. It's bigger and it can show different things. So no, we don't have a plan to move away from it currently.
David says thank you, very helpful. And Garrett saying the two-step ordering is why we have yet to move to the Outlook add-in from COM. So it's also the missing one-step ordering functionality. Yeah,
and you can say relying on the two-step, it's the same waiting process. So you might as well go to the Outlook if that is what is holding you back, because the button is there. You just need to reopen the meeting, and you can open the order form. It'll open in a big window, just like the floor plan Christina showed you. So you have the same experience more or less from the COM add-in. In regards to size, we don't take and push our order form into that little narrow window, because we didn't find it beneficial to squeeze it in there, at least in the first implementation, which also allows you to still have the same functionality in the order form. So you can still use the HTML editor for all your extra services and make it customized like you might have it today.
Okay, thank you. I will go to the next slide for you, Christina.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about a little bit about a new functionality where we can put deadlines on items and menus. We've always had the deadlines on the resource, but it covers all the items and all the menus, and it might not be the best way because the coffee has a long deadline as a sandwich menu, for instance. So now we have it on items and menus where you can set individual deadlines. So it might have a resource deadline who is shorter than the item deadline, and then it's the item or menu that will overrule the short deadline. So in order to do this, set this deadline, there's a new field in the item details or the menu details is placed at the same place. In the button, you can see there's a deadline for the item where you can specify how many work days before deadline and a certain hour you will have to order it before. So if you have a meeting in 2 days from now and there's a deadline on an item for 3 days, then when you order it, the order form will show a little icon stating that it's not available because the deadline's too short. So now it's possible to distinguish between easy items and items that takes longer to prepare. Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Christina. I will take the next step, which is talking about the new feature that has gotten this short, easy to say new name, location utilization calculation. It's a feature that we have developed, especially actually in combination with the new pooled resource type of that Simon was talking about earlier. It can be generally be used with all resource types, but it's mainly thought of for pooled resources and light resources. What it does is that you can actually set a percentage, a utilization percentage, and saying we would like for example, the pooled resources to be only booked like 50% or 80%. It could be used here in getting back to office after COVID-19, that you could say, well, we would like to still be able to have some distance in between the desks, but we don't want to move around all the desks. So we just say, well, let's just utilize 70-80% of the desks. I have also talked to customers who say this could also be used planning on how many desks do we actually need. So instead of removing 20 desks from your office, you could set the utilization level to 80% and see if it causes any troubles, any bottlenecks that people can't get a workplace. Then you turned it down too much. But then after a while, you could get rid of the last 20% of the desks. The way to use it is that on the resource now, there's an extra option called Include in Utilization Calculation. When you do that, it will be included in, as it says, in calculating how much of this can we use. If you should set this to yes on a standard resource, the capacity of that standard resource will automatically be set to 1. This means you cannot use this to limit how many people go into your meeting rooms, because we basically don't know how many you put into the meeting room, because you can invite 50 people after the meeting and stuff like that after you book the meeting room. So you still have to do that yourself. But if you set to 1, then we can calculate on it. We have 2 percentages that you can set up. We have one that we call the location percentage, and this is set on the location properties. That means you right click on the location, and this is also where you would put in the floor plan image that Christina was talking about. But now you have two extra fields: location percentage and external percentage. The location percentage works pretty quick and smooth and doesn't require a lot of adjustments or settings, whilst the external percentage is a bit more complicated. The external percentage, I will talk a bit more about that in a little while, but it's not for externals, meaning people from outside your organization. It's still people from inside your organization, but who does not belong to the same location. I'll get into that in a few minutes. So if I use the location percentage and I leave the external percentage blank, this will show me I can now use up to 50% of the capacity set on my light resources or on my pooled resources. It is done, the calculation per pooled resource. So if I have a resource if I have two pooled resources with 10 each in each end of the office, and I set this to 50, it means I can book 5 in one pooled resource and 5 in the other, not 10 in one and 0 in the other. So it will calculate per pooled resource. This is important. It then also says, okay, how many lights or standard resources with a capacity of 1 do I have? So then we will calculate those. So if you also have 10 light resources, could be hot desks that you say, I want to book this desk or that desk, then you could also just book, if you have 10 of those, you will also only be able to book 5 of those. I have made some examples to maybe explain this a bit more. So the condition setup is the location percentage is set to 50, just like we had before. Then we have one pool resource, a capacity of 10. What happens is that if organizer A, he wants to book the desk pool 1, which is the pooled resource, this has this great name, and then looks in Resource Finder to book it, he will see that it shows a capacity of 5. We know that originally it had 10, but 50% of 10 is 5, so it will show up as a capacity of 5. If we look at how it will look at if I do light resources, you will see that again, it's the same as before. It's 50. And we have 8 light resources. So our friend organizer A, he wants to book 5 of them, but he might run into trouble or into problems because we have 8. It's set to 50, so a quick calculation will make that a capacity of 4. That means he can select up to 4 resources. If he tries to select number 5, he will be prevented from selecting that, meaning it's not possible. So that's for the location percentage. Let me try and explain a little bit about the external percentage. That is used if you want to reserve a certain percentage of your resources for certain employees. That could be and when we say external, that could be the ones from building A going into building B, or it could be the one from the 5th floor going to the 6th floor. That could also be considered external. It depends all on how you set it up, as long as you have your location tree in Resource Central. And I'll show you on the next page that you also have to set up in the AD and connect that to the location, because we don't know the location from Resource Central in the actual organization of organizers. So this means that you can actually block 20%, for example, of your desks and saying these are going to our external people, so the visitors, we could say, or the ones visiting. So it's based on where's the organizer and where's the resource located. This is why we talked about in the AD directory, in the Active Directory, sorry, we have some AD groups. We will map them on the users and on the resource. And then Resource Finder will actually compare it and say, well, if you are booking this, are you in the same AD group as the room? Meaning, are you internal? Meaning we will work with the location percentage, or are you considered an external? In this case, we have 50% like before for the internals and 20% for the externals. That means we do have a total utilization of 70% for our resources in this location. It is possible also, just to make it a little more advanced, that you can say, well, if you want to take advantage of these 20% as externals, you have to be sure to get it. You can book it X days ahead. This can be set by a parameter. We call it resource finder.pre-reserved days. In this example, we set it to 3 days. So if I book this as an external, to be certain, I have to book it 3 days ahead, because within those 3 days, as an internal, I actually have access to all 70%. So if these 20% are not yet booked, I can take some of the desks as an internal. I'll show you that in an example. So the first one here is we have our 50% from before. No reason to change that. And the 20% we just saw. Our desk pool 1 from before still has 10. And we now put it in the AD group IT. This is where our friend from before, organizer A, he's also in that AD group. Now he's got a colleague, organizer B, who's not in the AD group IT. He's in some other group. And we have set the parameter resource finder pre-reserved days to 3. And we have moved a bit forward. So today is officially the 10th of September. What happens? Organizer A is creating a booking for the 20th. That means in round numbers, that is 10 days ahead. So we do not have to care about the 3-day pre-reserved days here. That means that when he looks at desk pool 1, he will see a capacity of 5, the 50%. Or his colleague, organizer B, will do the same, create a booking for the 20th. He will see a capacity of 2, because that's 20% of the 10, because he's not in the same AD group. Now, in the next example, the only thing we change in our conditions is that he's now booking for the 12th of September, meaning it's only 2 days. So now we run into our pre-reserved days here. This means, and it only makes a difference to organizer A, because he will now see that desk pool 1 will show a capacity of 7, if they are all available, of course, because the 50 he can now use or utilize the 50 plus the 20%. So this is how this location percentage and external percentage. I can especially see the use of the location percentage because it's easier to set up, so you can easily have this up and running in no time. Doing the external percentage, it does take a little longer, and it does require that you have control of your Active Directory and what's in it. But just ask us if you have anything you think you can utilize this and this would be good for you, and you have problems setting it up. Just reach out. That was it for me. Any questions?
No questions for you, Søren, currently.
Good. Either they all understood it or no one understood it. Now, I will switch over to you, Simon. Now we can talk future talk.
The future. First of all, let me say, as an organization, we do listen to your feature requests and keep letting us know. We often get feature requests from our webpage, and it is very important for us to hear your needs. So when we do prioritize what to look at next, a feature I've heard about from 5 different customers, of course, will be higher prioritized than if I haven't heard from any customers. So keep providing them to us so we can do better prioritization going forward. So some of the features that we are going to be looking into in the future for today, I brought a bit on the main features of our next service release, and then I'm going to talk a bit about our next big focus areas that we have planned. All of them something that we have heard from time and time again from customers requests, and now we are proud to present some of them also in the future. Looking at service release 2, we have when you book a series, a recurring meeting, you find yourself that out of 10 you might only be able to get 8 of them, and you have to wait to exchange, have declined, and then go and swap on the 2 of them, the 2 of the meetings where you have declined resources. Here we provide a user interface to you to ease this process. So when you are in any of the resource finder types, you can swap the conflicts when creating the series in Outlook. Of course, we cannot overcome how Outlook works. So what we have done is that after you as a user have found your alternative resources, you shoot the meeting invite out there, you get the decline for the 2 conflicts, and we will then substitute the declined resources with the resources of your choice. The feature requires impersonation right, as we do this on the user's calendar. Some organizations allow it and others don't, but it was one of the only options for us to do it in this way. But it has been requested, and we found I would say a fair and good and user-friendly way to get around a feature that Microsoft can't do and for some reason still haven't implemented, for God knows what reason why. But enough about that. Another feature, which a lot of customers have asked for during the years, and which I'm very happy to get in there as well, is status on extra services. So what does that actually mean? Well, today, when you do an order, it has a status, but the status is currently controlled by the catering items. So if you, for example, have table seatings, and you have a person or role handling the table seatings, and you have the catering role, then it is actually the catering role who dominates or controls the status. So if the catering says you can't have the cake, well, you could still have the table seating, but the catering would decline high level the whole order if they set it to declined. So going forward, we've broken up the statuses into, of course, one for the catering role, but now also you have the ability to set the status on each extra service that you might have. So you have the catering, you might have the guy doing the table seating, or the service provider doing handling the projector or the AV equipment, or whatever needs you have in your organization for extra services. Now it will be possible for each and one of them to have their own extra service status, to tell the organizer, no, you could not have that special seating arrangement, sorry, but you could have the projector, and the catering is telling you can have the tea and the coffee. So really a fundamental feature to be adding into our current product. So looking forward to seeing that go out here in Q4. Then we have, and of course there are a few other features, but those I brought here is also the departure time on visitors. Today we have the arrival time, but no departure time, so we are including that in the user interface. In some countries it's a legislative requirement that we have that, so that's the reason, or one of the reasons, to be pushing it in. And another reason for it is one of our future focus areas that I'll touch upon in regards to visitors in just a bit. Furthermore, reminder email, we have that today, but what we'll have tomorrow is the option when you get the reminder email saying you have a resource booking. You also have the option to say, whoops, I actually don't need it. Press a cancel button. We'll go with the system and cancel that resource reservation for you directly in the resource calendar. No need to get in to the organizer's calendar and remove it. And in this way, we hope to increase the utilization of scarce resources in any of your organization, helping the organizer cancel the resource if it is truly not needed. So these features certain to come in Service Release 2. Then we have some, what can I say, key focus areas that we are currently working on specifying, considering to specify, and so on. And one of them is visitors. We'll have other things coming than visitors, but just this is one of the most important parts I want to talk about today. So visitors, what are we doing? Today we have visitors, but you will have a visitor coming day by day by day. We don't have like a central definition or defined visitor. So going forward, we want to have one visitor that can have multiple meetings, and the receptionist would be able to see that Søren is coming and he's coming on multiple dates. And this will be some of the foundation for us to be able to move forward with other features, such as having approval. Can Søren come in? Somebody needs to look at Søren and say, is he allowed to come in? Is he a bad guy or not? And then say, okay, I approve that Søren can enter the company. And when he then comes and go into a kiosk and checks in, then he's not blocked. And if we don't want an approver to approve Søren on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but be able to chunk it up and say, okay, Søren is coming for 5 days straight, let's just approve all of them. Then we need this one visitor concept. So we are able to say, okay, he's coming over the next month 15 times, I approve them all. Or maybe say he can have the first 2 visits here, the rest, the 10 other dates he's coming, he cannot get in because, well, I know after 5 times he cannot behave. So that's one reason we are going to be looking at having this one visitor concept to be able to build more stuff on top of it. Other things we want to be looking into when it comes to visitors would be to have, for example, QR codes for checking in. So for the kiosk, we can log it down into privacy mode, which we can today, but it will send out a long code to the customer, to the visitor, that they need to punch in when at arrival. we would like to have, for example, QR codes that can be scanned for check-in and check-out much faster. And also, some of you might know that we have different customizable visitor fields where you can define if it is the shoe size you want to mark on each visitor. In these fields, on the visitors, we want to add not just text box as we can do today, but also check boxes, drop downs with specific values in it, like yes, no. For example, this visitor needs a Wi-Fi code, yes, no, giving that information to the receptionist, so the receptionist know that Wi-Fi is needed. We have a long list of different features in the visitor module that we want to focus on. We are scoping it now, we're working with it. So if you are using visitors, if you know that there's something that you're missing, please do write to us so we can take it into consideration when scoping. We don't know exactly when and what is coming in what release and how it's going to be bundled, but it is something that we hope to get out there during 2022 to improve greatly on the visitor part. And as I said before, of course, we are not only going to be focusing on visitors, just one of the topics I wanted to bring today. So another major topic, all our resource central data will be made available in a Microsoft Power BI platform. So if you reporting wise are used to using Microsoft Power BI, we'll have a solution where we'll provide you with all the data so you can in a Power BI platform, so you can make your own reports based on resource central data, do your own dashboards or whatever you need there to give that flexibility in the reporting for you, as some of you might already be using Power BI. This will come. When we're ready with it, we'll push a lot of information about how to and so on. But currently, just wanted to say that it is coming and it is actually pretty close. If you're interested in, if you are interested in it, do contact us. We have some pilots that are going to be starting up on it, so we might be able to say more or get you into a pilot. But when we are ready with the release, when we have the actual product, then we will of course market it towards you, so you will get more information on the concept, price, and so on. I think that was at least just some of the features I wanted to highlight a bit that is coming. Keep pushing your needs towards us so we can make Resource Central a better product and better for you to use. And for that, I'm done for the day. If no further questions, I'll give the word to Jens.
Before we have that, if you have any questions, wanted to show you our wonderfully animated slide. But otherwise, we will have a possibility of questions again afterwards. So I will let Jens take over from here. So go ahead, Jens.
Thank you, John, and thank you all. Hello to everybody joining this show tonight, or not tonight. For my it is tonight. I am here today to talk to you about. To talk to you about our Workspace app. Workspace app is a smartphone app to do booking reservation or to do reservation of your resources. And another product called Digital Sign Client, that is a digital sign to put up as a door sign for your meeting rooms. So first of all, as I know many of you do not know the Workspace app and Digital Sign Client, I have promised that I can use 5 minutes to tell you a little bit about it. Then I will talk about what is new, and for sure I will talk about how the resource central integration between these two or these three systems will work. I'll talk a little bit about resource type, and then I will, as Simon just did, talk about what is coming up in the Workspace app and the digital design client in the near future. So let's go. Digital design client is a app for Android, iPads, and Windows. So you can mount a small device screen on your wall to a meeting room, or we have a new device for a table or a desk, so you can put it on a desk, and then you can do reservation for your hot desks, and you can even see when it will be available, who has booked it, and so on. All the interfaces you have on these screens are custom templates, so you can actually design it as you want to. You can put in a background image. You can move and remove text and things like that. You can put in your own font. You can put in your own style and logo and so on. There's a small template editor where you can design the interface, or we will for sure help you doing that if you want us to do it. What you can do with these small devices is that you can for sure view what is happening inside the meeting room, and you can create new meetings. You can confirm it. So if you do not confirm it, it will be released so everybody else can or somebody else can use it. You can extend your meeting or reservation, and you can end your reservation so it is available for others. The other product we have is the Workspace Booking App. It is a smartphone app available in Android and iPhone. You can do somehow the same. You can view, create, confirm, extend, and end reservations. So very quickly you can do a reservation of a meeting room or for a desk, or it could be a parking spot. The products are available at the different stores. Digital Design Client is available on Microsoft because it does make sense to have a Windows running a big screen so you can show what is going on in the whole company. You also have the functionality to have a meeting directory. The Workspace app is only available for Android and iPhone, as Microsoft do not do smartphones anymore. And together with these two products, we have a backend that we call DS Service. That is a small backend where you can do the administration of the devices and your system. It looks and acts in the same way as Resource Central. The big difference between them is that this one is green and Resource Central is blue. So hopefully that is okay. What is new in this version that we have just released? For now, we can integrate into Microsoft Intune, so you can easily deploy all your the Workspace app to all your smartphone in the company, and you can even lock the app so only apps from your Microsoft Intune will be able to access your server. So if you have someone in your company that you do not want to use this Workspace app, then he can't not just download it from the App Store and then connect to the server. Another thing is the confirm reservations. If you have our door signs, then it is possible to set up that you have to touch the screen and say, yes, I confirm that I am present at the meeting. And if you don't do that in X minutes after the planned start, X minutes would normally be 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that, then it will be released. We have now made it possible for attendees to use the NFC card. So if you are attendees of a meeting, then you can use the NFC card and say, hey, I want to confirm this meeting, or I want to extend it or end it. So it's not only the organizer that can do that. The backend is translated to French, and I know other languages will be coming up soon. I guess German will be the next one. What else is new? The big thing we have done in this release is that we have made the integration to Resource Stencil, because many of the data and many of the configuration we are doing in the two systems has been exactly the same. You all know the location tree you have in the Resource Central. We have exactly the same in our system or in the Workspace app and the DSS client. We do use the floor plan in the exact same way as we do in Resource Central. So you have to set up the floor plan, or yesterday you have to set up the floor plan in the two systems, in Resource Central and in the DS services. So now we have integrated two systems, so we can actually reuse all the information from the Resource Central. So when you have the integration set up, it will know all your resources. It will know all the location tree. It will have the permission, delegate, and buffer time that you have set up in the Resource Central or Exchange. It will know the floor plan. It will know the categories, and of course, we will share the reservation of it. When we have the integration between the two systems, then all the maintenance of the data will be and must be done in the Resource Central. So we will actually lock down a lot of the functionality in DS services because it has to be maintained in the Resource Central. How do we do this integration? This is a screenshot from our backend in the DS service, and under system and connections, then we have a Resource Central integration. So you simply set the check mark. You need a user. You need the URL for the Resource Central, and you need a user and a password. And we also need information about the Resource Central database, where it is located, and we need a password, login and password for it. When this is done, all the information from Resource Central will be available just after in the digital or in the DS services. There is some limitation in this first release of the integration that we have done, and that is we will not be able to book virtual resources from the Workspace app. It will not be possible as it is today. When we do a reservation from the Workspace app, I am able to set a check mark and say, I don't want this reservation to show up in my own calendar. This functionality we have not been able to solve in this first release. We will be working on it. We do have a workaround for it because it can be set as free. So if you book a hot desk for the whole day, and then normally you will have a reservation in your calendar. This reservation will normally be a type of busy if it is a meeting room you have booked. We are able to set it as free, so it will look free if you look in your own calendar. And the last one is actually not a limitation, but you need licenses for all your resources in Resource Central before they will be visible in digital or in DS service. So you're not able to have a license or a resource that is only available in the Workspace app or as a door sign. It also has to be licensed in the Resource Central. When, if you remember in the beginning, Simon was talking about some resource type that is pretty new in Resource Central. Simon was talking about desks, rooms, equipment, and we do have the same in the DS services. So when you book a room or a desk or something else, then it's not necessarily the same way you want to book it, because if you book a desk, it will normally be a working day you want to book it from 8 to 5. If you book a meeting room, it will normally be a half an hour or maybe an hour. So there's differences in how you're doing it. Many people also ask me and say, hey, when you do hot desk or you are doing reservation for desk, then we don't want our users to be able to make a recurring appointment every day, because we actually want them to stay in different places, and we want them to stay at home some days. So you're also able to say, hey, this is not possible to book in recurring. It has to be booked as single appointments. In this case, we are looking at a resource type called hot desk or desks. If you look down here, we have something we call time rule. It is set to a work day. So that one will by default say you want to start the meeting or the reservation at 8 o'clock and until 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, whatever you have set up your work day to be. So it will try to do that. You can also set it, if it was a meeting room, you could set it to a half an hour, so it will work as you know it in Outlook. And of course, this is only the default when creating a new reservation. When doing reservations for desk, it can also be a problem to put in a nice subject, because what do you want to put in as a subject for a reservation of a desk? So you're able to set up a default subject that in this case show this is the resource name, reserved by, and then the organizer. So it's very easy for the user just to use this subject. You don't have to change it. If we go to the next slide, we can see how it actually reacts when we set up these kind of types. This first screen here shows us the Workspace app, how it looks in the main page. It will show all my reservations for today and forward. So when I do a new reservation for something, then I press this button down there, and then I select either meeting rooms or desk or one of the other types, resource type we have. If it is a desk, let's start over here. If it is a desk, it will suggest me that it go from 8 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And as you can see, I don't have the meeting subject here. And it is set by default to free. So my own calendar will show up as free. Of course, the resource appointment or the resources reservation will be busy, but my calendar will look free. On the other hand, if there's a room, it will just say, okay, I think you will start up with a meeting half an hour. And I can put in a meeting subject. I do have some predefined subject. I can press down here and then have a little drop-down box, but otherwise just type in the meeting subject here. And of course, the show as busy will normally be busy when I have a meeting. When I want to find the resource I want to book, then I can do it either from a floor plan, or it could be a QR code that I just scan if I walk around in the office and I want to book a hot desk. I could print out and put a QR tag on every desk and then scan it. I think I can show it on the next page here. Here's a normal floor plan as you have seen it from Resource Central. So simply click one of the green spots. In this case, I have clicked this one, so therefore it's yellow. It is the hot desk 7019, and then I hit this button, and then I will be reserving this functionality. This resource. Sorry. We also have the filter icon up there, so we can actually filter for the categories that you already know in Resource Central. So we have the same category list here. You could also scan the QR code, as I just said. If this was a QR code printed and mounted on my desk, then I could simply scan this QR code and then I book this desk. Yes.
Before you go on, Jens.
Yes.
We had a question in I know Simon answered it, but maybe not everybody was watching the chat. Jared was asking, that with the Workspace app, a two-step ordering would be required, and yes. So I guess if you order the meeting, you book the meeting room, you will still get the mail from Resource Central as you're used to.
Yeah. And we do have exactly the same problem as Simon just described before with the Outlook add-in, that we need to save the appointment first before we can actually link it to an order. And it's for now, it is a problem that Microsoft do not have the functionality that we need to do it in the same way as you know it from the COM add-in. But one day, hopefully, we will be able to do it. Yep.
And another question, also from Jared. Mm-hmm. Does the Workspace app work with calendar delegates? So like an assistant being able to book on behalf of their manager?
Does the Workspace app work with calendar delegates? Yes, if you by that mean delegate as a someone that needs to accept.
No, it would be like me having access to your calendar and being allowed to book meetings on your behalf, I think.
Okay, nope, it's not possible. It is not possible. It is your own. It is only your appointment you will be looking at, your reservations you will be looking at, and you are only doing it for yourself. Can that be on the roadmap? Yeah, it could be. It could be. The biggest problem with that, I would say, will be permissions, because if I need to book something for Søren, then I will need permission for his calendar, and that will in many cases be a showstopper. But I will look into it for sure.
Yeah, and he says generally our assistants will have full mailbox access. Yeah, but you can see that.
Then of course it would be okay. I will put it in, and it could, for sure, it could be a functionality that will be available if you have the permissions. So that would be okay. I'll put it in things.
Yeah, we have 2 requests on that one now.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Jens.
Yep. I don't have anything more for the presentation of what the product can. So if you have any question, then we could take it now, or you can give me 5 more minutes and I will go through what we will do, and then we can have the question afterwards. So let's do that. Yep. What is upcoming? One of the functionalities that we have had in the product for all the time, we have had the product for the door sign and for the Workspace app, is that we can set up resources so it has to be confirmed. And by that I mean you have to press the door sign in front of the meeting room and say, yes, I am here. Or you have to use your Workspace app, swipe the reservation to the left and say, I will confirm I am here and I use this reservation. And if you don't confirm it, then after X minutes after the starting time, it will be released. That is great. It is working. It's perfect. But we are missing the part that we are not sure that people are presented at the desk. So somehow we have a request from some of you asking, how can we make sure that people are actually at the desk and using the desk? So what we are doing now is that we are looking into that the people have to scan a QR code that is mounted or put onto the desk. It will be an option, but for many people it will be a big help. So you need to scan the QR code on the desk whenever you come in at the morning. You scan the QR code and then you have confirmed the reservation. If you don't scan it, then it will be released. And then somebody will ask me, what will you do if you don't have your phone, if you can't do it? Then you need to call your admin and say, hey, I am present, please confirm it for me. Yep. That one we are working on right now, and actually next week I will have the first demo with my developer to see how it looks and how it works. We have another thing. I just put it in here because we have 2 or 3 customers asking for ADFS single sign-on support. We are doing that right now, so it will be coming very soon. Support for hybrid environment, customer who has something on-prem and something at Office 365. We are working on that one too. We have from the door sign, we have a functionality called report a problem or incident, where you can push the door sign and say, hey, the light is not working, the meeting room was not cleaned, or whatever. You can put in a problem there. We want to have the same functionality on the Workspace app. So when you have reserved a desk or a meeting room, you can actually push the reservation and say, I have this reservation, something is not working, and a mail will be sent to the responsible people. And in the same ballpark, we need a report. Today it is only, there will be a mail sent, and it will be available to look at from the back end, but we will also create a report now. Talking about reports, we also want to support custom reports, so we can create specific customer report, as you maybe or probably already know from Resource Central. We would like to do a reservation kiosk, set up a kiosk in your office, so you from this kiosk can show a floor map, and then from that one do the reservation directly from the kiosk. We want to have push notification on the Workspace app, so I can send you a push notification to the phone and say, hey, you need to confirm this meeting right now, otherwise it will be released. We can push in a text called new meeting starting shortly, so you can pop up and say, hey, you have a meeting here in 5 minutes. Or we can tell you when you are inside the meeting room that in 5 minutes your reservation will be ended if you don't extend it or do something else. So that is what we are working on right now. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Jens. I can see that you already have another suggestion here from Jared, saying for reporting a problem, would it be possible for integration into some major service desk platforms, ServiceNow, Chervil, etc., to funnel or tunnel incidents through existing platforms in the environment?
Sure, that is a great idea. I don't know these two products, but I will write them down and look into it. I think it's a great idea.
Maybe they would work just by getting an email that would then turn into a ticket. Yeah,
could be. Great idea. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, David. Or can the report a problem have options to set an email address? Yeah.
Yes. We already have that. Yep.
Exactly. We're already analyzing and developing. That's nice.
Yep.
We like that.
Yes.
Good.
Fantastic.
So we are basically on this one, I guess.
And actually, we have 1 minute left.
1 minute left, yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Oh yeah. Right on the spot. Like that.
I can see somebody is writing.
I can see Jared's writing, yeah.
Okay.
So David likes us, I can see that. Another sort of big picture item, are there plans for integration into Crestron, Extron control systems?
Fantastic. Good question. Yeah, actually, we do have a question. We are in touch with the Crestron, and we do like the hardware they have. I have ordered 2 of them. I have it on my table. I'm looking at it right now. So yeah, we will do a integration to the Crestron devices.
But Jens, no, I guess not the control systems, or it depends on what is meant, because Crestron has a variety of different things.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, that's correct. The control system, no, we don't have any plans for that at the moment, but I guess whenever we are starting with this question deal, then it could be. At the moment, we don't have. Nope.
And there's another question saying, for instance, we have tested in the past another panel with a room sensor. So instead of a QR code or confirmation, not sensing room activity would cancel the reservation.
Yeah.
I guess that's in your ball games, Simon.
In both, it sounds like a very good idea, and it's duly noted.
Yeah.
Maybe also with Crestron sensors, we'll see.
Yep.
Very good. I see Gerard keeps on writing. That's nice. So, on the other hand, yep, good. Thanks, Gerard. Appreciate that. I would like to, on behalf of all of us and of Adam Pollux, I'd like to thank you for participating, for the very good questions and comments and suggestions. We are looking forward to working on those. And as I said in the beginning, we will send this recording to you afterwards, so that you can revisit any of the things you said. Oh, that was so good, I need to hear it again, or what was it they said? But anyway, keep posting good ideas and suggestions to us, and we will of course invite you the next time we do this webinar on when we next time do a release. So thank you everybody, and take care and have a good day ahead of you. Bye.